Hey guys, Joe Miles here with Osseo Gear. This is the Mission Whitetail Podcast. We're going to be doing a deep dive into what it truly takes to kill these mature bucks. We're going to step outside the box and look at the why for gear, tactics, training, and more importantly, the mindset from over 35 years of chasing these magnificent animals all over North America. Thank you for following along and welcome to Mission Whitetail. All right, guys, welcome back. Mission Whitetail episode number 37. Can't believe it, 37 in the books. Got our buddy Adam Hayes back again. He is a regular host now on the Mission Whitetail podcast. He's going to want me to start paying him before too long, I'm sure.
Yeah, where's my check at?
We'll get that coming to you, buddy, I promise.
All right.
So what you been up to, man?
Just trying to deal with this heat wave right now, man. It's going to be mid-90s up here all week, and I'm just kind of camping out for the week in the air conditioning, getting stuff done in the house, getting ready for my first trip. I leave next Wednesday for my first hunt.
Are you doing bear and whitetail up there or just bear?
I'm whitetail hunting, but I have my bear tag from the spring.
But you start September 1st, so you're going to be doing a bunch of scouting.
I'm going to be there, a day and a half early, and I'm going to be there for 10 days. So it's going to be I think it's going to be kind of a scouting / hunting trip.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Alberta, place you've been before, one of your pro staff guys. It's a good spot.
Take Them Outfitters, Bonnieville, Alberta. It's pretty close to the Saskatchewan line around the Cold Lake area.
Yep.
I was surprised, man. I looked at the forecast up there and it's like 60s during the day for a high and 40s at night. So it's going to be a nice, comfortable week of hunting.
Well, I mean, you just teed up a shameless Osseo plug. We're going to have to get you that new late season vest and let you try that thing out while you're up there.
Yep, I put it on my wish list for Santa this year and I'm still waiting for it to show up.
You see how short my beard is right now? I got a lot of
short
to do before I can get back to Santa.
Uh-huh.
Well, man, I got a buck last night.
I saw that.
Yeah, South Carolina river swamp buck.
Those elusive creatures.
Yeah, the elusive river swamp buck. Yeah, and this year's been a little bit odd as far as pressure in the area. Our hunt club has gotten real aggressive this year early for some reason, and we had 10 or 11 members down there 2 days before the season started, running all over the woods, putting stands up and cameras, and it just kind of wrecked it. And then, I've got the neighbor's property, my lifelong best friend since I was 2 years old. He lets me hunt his farm, and I was able to get over there and I found a real pretty 10 point, and it was a 4-year-old. And then I had this big 8 that's at least a 5. And I went down to the trade show in Georgia, the Perry, Georgia Buckarama. Went down there for that trade show, left at like 4:00 in the morning, got down there for the trade show so I could leave at noon to get back to hunt. And I get back to hunt and I text my buddy's brother and said, I saw his truck in the like shed area. I was like, hey man, I'm headed over to this area to hunt, just letting you know. And he goes, man, you're not going to believe this, but I've been in there with a bulldozer all day moving trees and stumps around. We're talking about 2,200 acres of land. He could be, just the chance. It wasn't his fault, obviously. He just, I guess what I'm saying is, keeping a good attitude, right? It'd be real easy. I just kind of laughed that off and, went on about my way. And of course I didn't get any pictures of that deer. So shifted to this 8 point who had been pretty nocturnal, one daylight picture of him. And then boom, he popped that evening. I kind of got run out by the bulldozer and got in there the next afternoon and killed him. So worked out good.
It's funny how every year that seems to come into play more and more, is that your attitude is just as important as anything else.
It really is. So obviously I hunted that afternoon and I could hear the bulldozer and I could basically see the trees moving. But sometimes that farm equipment doesn't mess with them, but it really did. I mean,
Yeah.
nothing showed up, and I was frustrated. I'd driven all the way back from that trade show, but it obviously wasn't his fault. I mean, my goodness, they give me permission to hunt on their property, and I should have just gone somewhere else. But the next afternoon, I got in the stand early and, had a little bit of a breeze. It was 94 degrees, 60% humidity. So it was still really hot, but little breeze. I was in the shade, and I just like, all right, I'm in the game. My complete mindset changed. Had a doe and a fawn come through, saw some other bucks kind of feeding out in the cutover. And then right at dark, he came in and was going to a big cornfield and was slipping through there. And you know how we talk about having your bow set up and your system set and setting a standard, and everything that I have on my bow came in to play. Everything I've been working on for 5 or 10 years on trying to get it dialed came into play.
Yeah.
I mean, right at dark. So my top pin being green, that you can see the absolute longest. My top pin, it was at 22 yards. I could see my pin. My peep sight was big enough, 3/16 to let enough light in so I could see him. Steep quartering away, but I had 2 minutes, 2 minutes of shooting light left, and I was able to shoot one right behind his back hip and get all the way up in there to the opposite side shoulder with an exit. And without the right broadhead, without the right arrow combination, he ran out into a giant 2-year-old hardwood cutover after I shot him, and probably went 400 yards. And having to blood trail him, if I hadn't had that exit wound, in that big 2-inch hole that blew through him, I would have found him, but it would have been the next day, and he'd have been spoiled. And I was able to follow the blood, and
Yeah.
it took me about 2 hours, but I found him. And it just, we talk about setting systems and putting things in place, and then that's kind of your standard or your benchmark, and then you just improve on that. Little things you can add and improve, and that it really, everything came to light with that one opportunity, and you don't need it until you need it, right?
Yeah, and it's situations like that that will highlight the weakest link in your setup.
Yep.
You know, and I tell guys a lot of times, man, you don't practice till you get it right, practice till you can't get it wrong. I mean, you got to be that dialed in, because that makes a difference, when it's too late to do anything else about it, and you just got to rely on your instincts and your equipment to get it done. So
Yeah, I mean, you've got what you've got. You're not changing
Right.
anything right then.
Right. Yeah.
You've got what you got, and you got to go with it. And literally, it's so funny. I was looking back at my Instagram story. I try to post stuff on that every morning with what I'm doing to prepare. And I had literally that week worked on. I've got those little miniature Reinhardt elk targets, and I'd taken them and turned them as, I mean, almost butt to me, to work on sneaking arrows right past that hip. Now, obviously, that's not the ideal shot, right? And the quartering 2 shot isn't ideal. You want a better angle, but it's a killable shot. And if you can make it and you practice it, I mean, we're talking 22 yards. So, all those little things, they add up. Practicing
Yeah.
that little stuff that you think's mundane over and over and over again, it's important.
Yeah, we don't live in a perfect world, and probably count on one hand how many times everything comes together perfectly, and you get the perfect shot. I mean, yeah, you got to be ready for the unexpected and for a worst case scenario, and yeah, that's what that practicing is all about, man. And it
No,
looked like a great deer.
yeah, for down here, he's definitely the most mature one I found. I ran a ton of cameras, for about 3 weeks trying to locate something. It's hard for us to do a whole bunch of long range scouting, especially when we've got a hill that we can hunt, that a guy has another hunt club on, and he plants some corn up there. And when it's corn, the whole thing is corn. So we can't glass a bunch of beans, and they don't do any, I guess, summer food plots on these properties. So it's tough. It's
Yeah.
so you have to rely heavily on cameras, and you're constantly moving them. And then, we get muscadines and the pawpaws and all that start dropping. And You know, when that fruit starts going, man, they spread out.
What is a muscadine and a pawpaw?
That's some redneck slang for some swamp fruit, Hayes.
I don't think I have any of those in my backyard.
You probably don't. Muscadine is a wild grape. It's just a wild grape that grows down here, kind of in the southeast, and then pawpaw is just a bush. It's almost looks like a pear fruit.
Yeah.
And when it starts dropping, they're real sensitive, like they rot really fast.
Yeah.
But I think they go through there and hammer them pretty good. And then there's plenty of browse and those cutovers, and then the sawtooth acorns. They're going to start hitting the ground here in about 2 weeks. So it's tough, but it's a lot of fun, man. I was talking to somebody today about it. They're like, man, you hunt in Ohio and Kansas, and you're looking at bucks that are, 150, 170. You're chasing around those, and then you want to come home and shoot a 115 and 120. I just don't get it. And I'm like, man, it's home. That
Yeah.
it's all relative,
Yep.
all relative, and it's a different environment, and I love it. I got no problem.
It probably helps to get you ready for everything else too, doesn't it?
Man, it does, like getting your pack dialed.
Yeah.
You skimp on this, and I was telling I was telling Lucas or Rendell or somebody today about my truck. Right now, it looks like World War III hit it. I mean, I've wrecked it twice on swamp roads that were wet, where I slid off the road and hit trees. Just trying to get to move a camera, or get one and put new batteries in it. And I had to get there. And then the inside of it with monster cans and battery boxes and lifelines and sticks. I mean, it just looks like a nuclear bomb went off in that thing.
Yeah, take a day and get yourself organized.
I do. That's exactly right. But you know how it is when you start. I mean, when you get in the game and you're on a couple bucks and you know that the neighbors are hunting hard and doing crazy stuff, it's just everything's out the window. You're a
Mhm.
madman, fixated madman. It's nuts. And I know a lot of the guys listening are the same way. They when it's time to go, it's time to go.
Yeah, next few months is going to be balls to the wall.
That's it. It's going to be
Mhm.
crazy. All right. So what's your plan in Canada? I mean, I know you're going to be, I mean, kind of give us a play by play with, for guys that maybe are doing a trip like that, kind of, you've done this a bunch. What do you do? I mean, what have you learned up there, and what's your tactic there early season?
Well, this is going to be my first trip up there early. I bow hunted up there 2 years ago, last part of October. So I've not been up there for, the opener yet.
But
In
you and I
this,
hunted up there a few times for the opener.
yeah, I mean, in other areas. I'm talking about this
Oh, gotcha.
specific area.
Gotcha.
Clay's got he's got a lot of big timber. His big thing is running, trail cameras back in the big timber on, trails and scrape lines and pinch points, around lakes and that sort of thing. And then, he does have some farmland. So, you know, I normally don't hunt much early mornings and early season, but I think the plan is to hunt his spots back in the timber in the mornings. And then I'm going to focus on the ag fields in the evenings. The red moon hits, I think, the second day of season. So I got like, a full week of red moon hunting.
Nice.
And all the ag is really close to his house too, where he lives. So, he's been keeping an eye on stuff and glassing fields in the nights, and has got eyeballs on a few deer in the crop fields. They're out in the canola and the peas, like you've seen when we've been up there in the past. So
Oh yeah.
that's gonna kind of be the game plan. He's got a few bucks in that 170 to 180 range. Have not had any giants show up yet, but this time of the year, end of August, first part of September, bucks could just show up that have been on a summer pattern somewhere else. So it's gonna be interesting, gonna be fun. I can't think of any place I'd rather be going.
No, I know, man. I'm jealous. And they're going to hold their velvet up there till what, September 10th? They start coming out then.
They're gonna be, you know, they're gonna be shedding about the same time I'm up there.
Yeah.
So
They are here.
Could be in velvet, could be shedding, could be hard-horned. Hard to say what we might see.
Yeah. I'm probably going to shoot over to Kentucky. That's kind of my plan right now. Craig, who you've met, our buddy out there, he's got a few around, but it's going to be a scout fest, I believe.
Yeah.
And then I've got that property that Bobby and I looked at and set up for the rut. Now, didn't you tell me that Bobby and you were just hanging out?
Yeah, he was in northeastern Ohio here recently to do a seminar, and he was coming right by my place. I mean, within 20 minutes of my house. So we had a little miscommunication on what was happening, but we ended up hooking up and meeting for lunch and got to visit a little bit and chat. And he's Bobby is he's a different character, man. Super good guy.
He
Would love to get him on some of my properties I hunt in Illinois, to scout him with me. I know you've done some scouting with him on some of your stuff in Kentucky, but yeah, it was good to meet up with him. I've actually got this longbow that I had made probably 2007, 2008. I had a custom longbow made because I wanted to take it up to Canada and bear hunt with it, which I did, and I shot a nice bear. But I took that thing to a trade show. I'd actually forgot how long ago it was, but back in 2011, and I had Barry and Gene Wenzel autograph it for me.
Yep.
And Bobby's one of the other guys I wanted to get signed that thing, so I was able to throw that in the truck and take it and have him get it signed. So that was cool.
That is awesome. Yeah,
I got a few other people I want to get it signed by, but yeah, it was good to catch up with him, and he's doing good.
Yeah, he's
getting after him.
Yeah, he's something else. Is he got somewhere he's going to start early, or is he going to wait to the rut again?
He didn't mention anything about starting anywhere early. I know he did mention that he drew a Kansas tag, so I was giving him all my drop pin locations for those farms that you hunt, so he knows where to go.
I figured there would be nothing less coming from your onX other than my coordinates. Attaboy.
Yeah, he bought my lunch and slid me a little cash if I came off some stand locations. So yeah, he might have some company.
He's gonna go hunt with Seymour. Yeah, that's right. We're actually about to head out there, out to Seymour's to do a little prep work. We're going up to that mobile road show up in Iowa Friday and Saturday, and then next Monday, week from today, go to Seymour's for 2 or 3 days to get stuff prepped out there. And I'm gonna go back out to the tracks and see if I can locate something out there.
Just crushing me that I can't hunt Kansas this year.
I know that's nuts. I mean, how this draw is done. I mean, literally the last 3 years in a row I've gotten drawn, so I know next year there's no chance.
You've drawn every year the last 3 years?
Yep, 3 in a row.
Wow. Yeah, I've drawn once in the last 3 years, so figure that out.
Yeah, crazy. Well, let's shift gears a little bit, and seems to be on most social media outlets, YouTube, technology and hunting, baiting and hunting, where the industry is headed, where do you draw the line? There's so much to unpack there. There's cameras that are coming out now that have AI in them that, if you get 15 or 16 pictures of one particular buck, I don't know, maybe 2 pictures, whatever, it can predict for you what kind of weather you need to hunt him on, what kind of wind direction you need to hunt him on, and where you need to hunt him. So there's all the drone stuff and flying drones and seeing buck beds, and where in your mind, where does the big reset come in, or does it?
I don't know. I mean, seems like every year you're always thinking, what else could they possibly come up with, And this whole AI thing just came out of left field this past year. And, we've even been looking at it for some stuff with the moon guide, but I mean, who knows, where it's going to go. I mean, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, you'd have never dreamed of the stuff that was going on right now. So I think, you're probably going to see a lot of big changes within the apps. I mean, we're working on some stuff, like I said, with the moon guide. The thing that really concerns me though is what's going on, with the current administration and their, the people trying to do away with, they've already done away with the cell cameras on public land in Kansas this year.
Yep.
We're trying to take archery out of schools. I mean, it's going to be a constant battle just to fight for, what we currently have. So I'm not sure where it's going to go, but it doesn't look good.
No, I mean, obviously from a political perspective, but I mean more of like an ethical, like is there a point where Adam Hayes or Joe Miles or whoever says, all right, you know what? No more corn, no more text cams. I'm going back to a recurve. I'm going to put my stand on my back. I'm going to go in the woods and I'm going to hunt. My thought process for the last probably 5 or 6 years has been, I want to use everything I can to my advantage. Text cams, cell cams, whatever. If I could do it, the most efficient compound bow, the best broadhead, the best arrow, the best sight, the best rangefinder. And so I just wonder, I go to a lot of these shows now, and I used to not do that. And, with ASIO, we're at just about every outdoor show, and you're seeing, I don't know if it's a bro movement, but you are seeing guys that are starting to, branch away and start shooting some longbows, start shooting some recurves, and get away from the text cam and the corn piles. And, even Seymour talks about that. he talks about going back to more of a pure hunt. And I'm interested to see where that goes. I mean, I think I would, I still do some of that. I mean, I still use the most modern compound. I don't have a recurve per se, but I still really enjoy just throwing a stand on the back and going in the woods and finding a place to hunt and scouting. And I mean, that's a lot to that.
Yeah. Yeah. I was just thinking about that earlier when I got your email about what we were going to be discussing today. And it got me thinking about, I'm excited to get back from Canada to take a few days to go over to Illinois and, put a couple cameras in my bag and to stand on my back and just scout, hit the woods and look for fresh rubs. I mean, mid-September, there's going to be fresh rubs everywhere that were just made. And it's such a great time to do that, kind of pre and in-season scouting to get, find the freshest sign. And yeah, it's exciting time of the year for me, and as far as that other stuff goes, I mean, the big debate on, corn and baiting, I mean, baiting has gotten to be a necessary evil in Ohio, I guess if it was up to me and I had my choice, it wouldn't bother me if they did away with it just because you have to do it. I mean, if you're not doing it, all your neighbors are going to be pulling your deer. I mean, so you got to do it. And I think, I don't know, I'm not really big on the whole corn piles and cameras over them and just waiting them out to show up. I think it's getting away, and I think a lot of guys have gotten away from, the scouting and the hunting. And it would be nice to see guys get back to the woodsmanship that it takes to hunt these deer down. And I mean, I don't know. I just personally, I would like to see them do away with the baiting. I mean, it's probably going to make a bunch of people mad, but that's just my opinion.
Yeah,
And
that's right. And that's
opinions are like butts. Everybody's got one. And
yeah. I mean,
I'm no exception.
Play by the rules, but you're right. If you're in a bait state, and it's not so much about bringing the buck to the corn pile, because you and I both know the chances, I mean, it happens every year, but the chances of a really big giant buck coming into a corn pile in daylight, if he's 5, 6, 7 years old, unless he's following a hot doe, it isn't real good. But the point is if you don't have all the does on your place, if they're on the neighbors eating out of their corn piles and corn feeders, that's where the bucks are going to be too. So
Yep.
it is a necessary evil. You've got to do it.
And it's great for inventory, just knowing what you got. And I wouldn't be opposed to maybe, being able to bait outside of the season, and then once season open, maybe cutting it off.
Yeah,
kind of like,
supplemental feed. Yeah.
so.
Yeah. It's an interesting topic that seems to be getting a lot of attention now. And I guess a lot of it's in the media, with the cameras getting closed down. And they talked about Kansas. They're going to be voting on Kansas being a non-bait state.
Really?
Yeah. Remember
Hear that?
Did Seymour send you that article? Maybe he sent it to me and a couple buddies here in South Carolina. But apparently, there were rumors that it was going to be voted on during season, and now it's going to be after season. They're going to have like a town hall or something and listen to people, and then maybe talk about doing a vote. At least that's the article I read. But I mean, who knows?
Yeah. Huh. I did not hear that.
Yeah.
Doesn't surprise me though.
No, and again, the rules are the rules, right?
Yep.
There's legal rules and there's ethical rules, and everybody makes their own decisions about how they're going to hunt and what they're going to do, and who are we to judge or whatever. You do what inside the confines of the law and do what makes you happy.
Yep.
It's for everybody.
Yeah, no kidding.
All right, let's switch gears again. Tell us your schedule, Hayes. What does your hunt schedule after Canada look like?
Well, like I said, I didn't draw my Kansas tag, but I did draw a archery tag and a gun tag for Illinois. So I'm planning on spending quite a bit of time over there this year. Depending on what happens on my scouting trip mid-September, will determine what I'm going to do for their opener. I mean, Ohio opens a few days before Illinois because we open on the last Saturday of September. So you got a little window there before Illinois opens on the 1st of October. So
sorry, guys, a little technical difficulty there, but we're back. Adam was telling us about his season. He's going to be over in Illinois doing his stuff over there. And then you're planning on obviously doing stuff at home in Ohio. What's cooking in Ohio?
it's some pretty nice deer on my home farm that I've been watching this summer. Was hoping one of them was going to make a good jump and be north of 170, but I think the two I've been watching all summer are like right there, 160, 165. So still really good deer, mature deer. I'm sure one of those deer is going to die on opening weekend between me and my nephew. And then I had two really good deer show up last year, the last week of August for one, and then the other one showed up second or third week of September, and they were both 150 class deer. So, and I know they both made it because I got pictures of them both after season closed. So it's going to be interesting to see. I'm sure they're on a summer pattern in the beans somewhere. See if one or both of them show up here and what they look like. So yes, I mean Alberta for the opener, and then between Ohio and Illinois for October, just depending on what cameras are showing up. And then I do have a opportunity to get down to Kentucky this year. So I don't know if that's going to be in October or November. Kind of have to play that by ear with the guy that I'm hunting with. And then outside chance on Texas. We'll see. We'll see what happens there.
What about you going to Mexico with me?
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's gonna be fun. It's gonna be me, you, Pork Chop, Lucas. I think that's it. I think it's gonna be
Yep.
us four. So Lucas will have the camera so we can get a bunch of Team 200 footage, and we can see if he can spot and stalk a javelina and catch him with a knife. We'll get Lucas doing all kind of stuff out there. We'll get him a Mexican senorita while we're down there. He's as red as a fire truck right now, buddy.
What's your schedule look like?
Well, I had high hopes in Saskatchewan, but it doesn't look like that's going to play out. Guy found some deer, just not in the unit that he can hunt, so no big deal there. Hunting at home, kind of check that box, but keep cameras going and trying to get Jack on a buck. He started bow hunting this year, so gonna do that, and then probably go to Kentucky and mess around with Craig. I feel like it's going to be a glorified scouting mission. He lost his big bean farm that where you and I put all that mineral out that time. He lost that farm, and that was really kind of my go-to to do some long range scouting and lock in on one early. And but it's Kentucky, it's in Trigg County, and there's giant deer there, so anything could pop at any time. So
Yep.
probably head out there. And then really get Kansas set up, the lease that you and I have in Ohio, kind of monitor that. And then that other little track in Ohio, and just really kind of hunt at home, be on a holding pattern, and, rut, unless there's something giant in Kansas, in Ohio or something, I'll be probably in that funnel on the tracks in November, and hopefully something big will come bebopping through there. So I don't really have, a big target buck that I'm going after in the Midwest this year. And I kind of like it. There's not a whole lot of this angst and anxiety about what's going on. And it's kind of going to be like Christmas, what's going to pop up. And what,
Well, last year I had a big deer everywhere I was hunting and ended up, they all disappeared. I saw one of them one time and then he disappeared. So yeah, I thought I had the perfect season last year and the perfect game plan, and that, by the end of October, that all went right down the crapper. So, and I ended up killing a really good deer late season. So I'm in the same boat, man. I haven't seen any giants, and I'm just wondering if maybe that might not be the ticket this year.
yeah, but it goes back to our original conversation, this attitude, right? You keep, it seems like this is conspiracy or whatever, but it's like they can sense that negativity, man. When you're in the
Oh
tree,
yeah.
you're like, I shouldn't be here, versus I'm locked in, ready to go. It's attitude.
It's time to be at one with the woods.
Yes. Be an Osseo owl. That's what it's time to be. I love how Andre said the other day, I was talking to him, and he said, you got to be, and I didn't even think about this. He said, you got to be some kind of a marketing genius. And I was like, what do you mean? He goes, because every dadgum time now I'm in the woods and I hear an owl, I think about Osseo camo. And I'm like, you know what? That's actually a really good idea.
Yeah.
And sure enough, last night I'm in there and, I get settled down, everything gets still, and all of a sudden they start cranking up. And I'm like, oh yeah, here we go.
There ain't nothing like hearing that first owl in the evening getting fired up. It's like, here we go. It's
Yeah.
time.
They're hunting and we're hunting. It's good.
Yep. Exactly. One of the coolest sounds in the woods.
It is. What about I keep bumping around on you here, and I'm sorry not to, I'm ADD kicking in or something, but what any new stuff that you're trying out this year? Any new broadheads or arrows or anything new that you're messing with or tweaked or played with?
Actually, this is the first year in 8 years that I have not shot a Hoyt carbon bow.
Went with the Venom.
BTM.
BTM, yeah.
BTM this year, first aluminum bow I've shot, and everybody on the team says the exact same thing that I've been thinking. That's the best bow I've ever shot. It's quiet. The carbon bow always seemed to be, just a little bit noisy, probably because it's so much lighter, but it's just super quiet, super smooth, super forgiving. Love the way it shoots. Yeah. And I don't know if you've seen that new, what do they call it? It's not gunmetal gray. It's a new gray color, some battle worn gray, I think is what it was.
It's good.
And it's not only the best looking bow I think I've ever owned, but I've been shooting better than ever with it. I just love it. So yeah, I'm excited to get the VTM a little bloody here in the next week or two.
Yeah.
As far as new equipment goes. It's funny, you and I had a conversation a couple years ago about that Garmin site, and those things aren't cheap by any stretch of the imagination. And I tried one last year and loved it, and have it on my RX-7. And man, I struggled for a couple months debating on whether to pull it off my RX-7 and put it on the new VTM. And I went ahead and bit the bullet and just got another one because I like it so much. So
Got two of them now. You're dialed and you got a backup. You're ready to roll.
yeah, I've been in that situation before during season where something happened to my bow, and thank God I had a backup all ready to go. So you just never know, man, and you just got to be prepared for anything. So
Without a doubt, man. I mean, that afternoon hunt, you get in there in the morning in the dark and you don't see that a broadhead's nicked a string or a cable, and you're on a giant, and that afternoon you got to go to the bow shop and you could have killed him.
yeah,
Like not having a spare release in your bag. I mean, that's an avoidable problem, to have
absolutely.
two releases. Those are just little things that can make, all the difference in the world.
Yep.
Backup batteries if you're running a rangefinder, you never know when that thing's going to die. Change all those batteries now. It's August. Change out your batteries.
Yeah, got extra batteries for everything on my backpack. Yeah, but as far as new products go, the only other thing I can think of is I kind of switched gears this year. I've still got the 0.75, the small Lone Wolf custom gear stand to use for my mobile setup on hanging hunts, but I've kind of been switching out some of my old Lone Wolf stands for that new 2.0. It just seems like I just like having that extra space on the platform anymore. And that 2.0 is, it's comparable to the old Alpha, the big Lone Wolf stand. I think it might actually be just a little bit wider, but I just like having that big platform and being able to move around. I mean, ever since that giant got past me in Illinois a few years ago, one of the biggest deer I've ever seen in my life, and I could not get around the tree because I didn't have enough platform to move. I just, why not? If you're going to hang something, you might as well hang a big one,
Yeah. Yeah, especially, in all my like rut funnels and permanent sets, I've got those old original Lone Wolf stands. That's what I put in there. And, here, I don't know who I was talking with about this the other day. My mobile setup is kind of quasi-mobile because my office is literally 10 minutes from where I hunt. So if I'm going to go that afternoon, I get intel from the afternoon or before, I'll go down there in the middle of the day, hang the stand, get everything prepped and ready, go back to the office, take a shower, and then be back in there to hunt that afternoon. Because it's so hot here, man. If you like right now, if you can do a mobile setup, you can hang and hunt, but you will be drenched. I mean, pouring sweat. And so it's hard to do, but I those old original Lone Wolves, man, I've got a bunch of them still from, back in our day when that was all we ran.
Yep. Hard to beat.
They are
hard to beat, man.
And I'm interested to see, it seems like in the stand industry, there's a race to the most expensive, lightest stand possible. Right? I mean, do you see that?
I see that race, and then I see this race to have the lightest. It's almost like the minimalist thing with these new saddles. Like what's the least amount of equipment I could use to get up in a tree? And that ain't me anymore. I'll tell you that. It ain't me. Well, I know some guys that have switched to the saddles and love them, but I'm just, you ain't going to catch me doing that. I'm comfortable with what I got and used to it.
Yeah. And I am too. And I've used saddles in Texas quite a bit because those trees are so gnarly, and sometimes you're only 4 or 5 feet off the ground and you really don't have a limb to put a lock on in. So I've used the saddle in trees that I couldn't get in. But I guess what my point was about the expensive stands is I wonder if somebody's going to come out with, like a more affordable, maybe it's a little bit heavier, maybe it's a little bit bigger, maybe it's not cast aluminum, maybe it's not, it looks like now things are going to carbon fiber, maybe it goes back to, we might see a good quality lock on stand for under $200. Maybe I'm wishing in the wind here, but it would be great for some guys, that we're going to have some permanent sets to have a little more affordable stands, because $500-600 a stand is expensive. For a mobile setup, I get it, but for, you're going to have 5 or 6 permanent stands. God, that gets expensive.
I wouldn't be surprised if we saw that sometime soon.
Oh yeah. I'm picking up what you're putting down.
Wouldn't be shocked.
Yeah. Well, that's good. Myself, as far as new equipment, really the only change, I've got the same bows I shot last year, the V3X, same bows I shot last year. And I did go with that new black gold dual track sight. It's got the vertical pins, the 2 vertical pins versus like the 3 or 4 horizontal pins. Absolutely love it. It's top one is 0 to 30, bottom one's 40, and then I've got holdover for 50, but then I can dial all the way out to 100 with the top pin, and just love the clarity and the bulletproofness of the way that thing dials and resets, and it's got micro adjustment on it. That's a good sight, but that's really the only thing that I've changed with all of my setup. I have looked into these aiders. I bought a bunch of these aiders for the mobile setup, where you hook these ropes and stuff, where I'm probably going to get my ankle caught in and somebody's going to find me upside down in the woods. But
Yeah.
those
cable aiders for the sticks.
Yes,
Yeah.
they make sense to me as long as they stick out enough. But
those things have got nightmare written all over them for me.
yeah, I was like, maybe just on my first 2 sticks.
Yeah.
I'm not going 3 and 4. I'm not having those things on there in the dark.
I have a hard enough time finding my way down a tree after dark with a regular stick, let alone trying to find a cable aider.
Speaking of crazy stands, I talked to Scott Baker yesterday. He was, or by text, he was sending me some pictures, and we were catching up. Hadn't talked in a long time. Do you remember some of the stands that guy had hung? Oh my God.
Yeah. He had one that I nicknamed the Jungle Gym. It was literally like trying to climb a freaking jungle gym.
Oh,
forget about getting down. I mean, I thought I was going to stay in the tree all night. I just couldn't do it.
yeah. I mean, eventually I just did like a fireman's thing down the lifeline. I mean, he was like, put your foot on this root and your one on this twig, and then down past the
twist this way, put your left. Is like playing Twister, Twister tree stands.
Oh man. He's a good dude. I really like Scott, man. He loves to hunt as much as anybody I know, and one of the hardest working humans out there. He's a good dude.
And some of the prettiest property I've ever been on.
God, that farm's gorgeous.
Beautiful.
And he knows every deer on that place, knows where to kill them. And it's odd to me because he can go in there and bump those deer and it doesn't really bother him.
Mm-hmm.
I've never seen it, like that. I don't know if they're used to him or what the deal is, but go in, bump a deer, shoot over its back. 2 days later, another encounter with it. Mm-hmm. It's pretty crazy.
Something else, man. He's got quite a place up there.
It's beautiful.
Somebody needs to send him a bunch of ladder stands, or climbing sticks and stands, because the jungle gyms he's got for setups.
He does that framing or barn building, and he walks on those rafters in the ice.
Oh yeah, he's used to being 40 foot up in the air and not having anything to stand on or brace yourself, so it doesn't bother him at all. But
it freaked me out. We hung one where he could get the webbing of the strap on the sticks into the little vise that holds it, into the little thing that you cinch down. The webbing was in there, and that was how big around that tree was. He was like, "Oh, it'll be fine." And we're 28 feet up in the tree. I'm going, Scott, we are not fine, buddy.
Yeah.
If I fall out of here, I'm in trouble. I
Yeah.
weigh 220 pounds, brother. I'm going to break something bad.
Well, I think he's fallen enough that he's got enough scar tissue build up. I don't think he's going to break anything anymore. I mean,
Uh,
he's
tough as
he's
nails.
one tough dude.
He is. He is indeed. All right, let's running on almost an hour here. Let's talk about any early season tips, because obviously that's what we're getting into. Early season tips, early season tactics. What are kind of your rules of thumb on things you do, don't do? Fire away, and then I'll follow up with anything that maybe you don't touch on.
I'm kind of I don't want to say I'm shifting gears, but I'm probably a little more focused on the food early season than I ever have been before, just because I've got my own farm now. And I've got the corn and the beans up, but I really think I've got a good game plan with having multiple food sources that are, I guess you'd say, peaking right during the opener. The soybeans are still going to be green. I've got some late season alfalfa that I planted that's just should be prime for the opener. We're doing a new project with the Whitetail Institute this year for their winter peas. Planting some fall food plots with the winter peas and doing a cover crop with their imperial oats to give those peas a little bit of a cover so they can get established, because I've seen in the past whitetails will just wipe those peas out as soon as they pop. So got some of that stuff planted down at the lease too this weekend down south. So just really focusing on having everything just peaking and right for the end of September, early October, and hoping that I feel like where I'm at, that's probably gonna be my best chance to kill these bucks that I'm watching here at home. Once the rut kicks in, man, who knows where they are. And I normally lose a couple mature bucks every year during the rut because they take off. So really focusing on the food early season and just having, all the different things you could possibly have that deer are going to want, just peaking right at, right for the opener this year. That's kind of my game plan for Ohio.
Yep. I think, Ohio, right there on your home farm, whether you're traveling to Kentucky, I've got lots of buddies from here in South Carolina that are jacked up about going to Kentucky. Some guys going to Nebraska, North Dakota, everywhere that comes in that 1st of September. I think the main thing, and you can call it mindset, is you're going to see bucks hitting the ground, right? And good for those guys. They're locked in on those deer. They kill them. The early season is so sensitive. Don't force it. Don't force it, man. If you've got that deer out there and you've seen him 2 afternoons in a row and you somehow talk your mind into that wind's going to be good enough when deep down it's not, you can't force it. That's the big thing, because if he's a grown one, a big mature deer, and you get out there and you force it and he gets a whiff of you, the early season is over.
Yeah.
It is that's when they are the most vulnerable, in my opinion, and also they get switched on immediately.
Yeah.
Right. And they will just not come out till after dark.
Yeah.
So that's a tip. I talked on that on the Mission Whitetail season update, I think last week, about you're going to have 4 or 5 of your buddies and you're going to see Instagram start filling up with bucks. And you're like, I got to get in there. I got to get in there. I got to get me one killed. Man, it is a marathon, not a sprint. If it's not right and you don't have a perfect plan to execute, man, stay out early season. Wait until the rut and get in those funnels. And then, man, sit all day and get in there and get after it. But early season, it's got to be like a sneak attack ambush.
Yeah.
That's my opinion.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I think the early season is such a great opportunity to kill a specific animal, but it's kind of like, mid-October, when you get into that October lull, they're still doing the same thing every day, and they're so predictable and patternable, like you say, that the trick is they're doing it in such a small area that, once you go in there, you got one crack at them and it's pretty much done, because they're not moving that far, from bedding to feeding. I mean, 100 yards in some situations,
Yep.
maybe even a little less, but I mean, 100 to 200 yards for the most part. And I mean, those deer are relaxed as they're going to be, because they haven't been hunted, for 6 months. And it's such a great opportunity, like you said, to kill a big deer. And there's going to be some big ones falling, and we got a red moon the first week of October this year. If you can be patient enough to wait and stack the deck, good wind, good moon, and maybe on top of that, if you're lucky, get a good weather pattern that's going to increase activity for that night, man. When you start lining up two or three things on the same night, that's the perfect storm for big deer. And yeah, you don't want to go in too early and blow them out of there, because you just waiting a couple of days for everything to line up and be perfect. Don't let the pressure of social media get to you. And just because hunting season is open, you got to be hunting, man. You got to hunt smarter, not harder. And it's such a great opportunity early season. If you're patient, wait for everything to line up and go in, you should be able to get it done the first time. But it's tough, because they're doing the same thing every day. They're so predictable, but yet they're doing it in such a small area that you're going to get one crack and it's probably going to be over. And every time you go in there and don't get it done, it just keeps getting tougher and tougher. So
100%, man. And just to add on that with early season too, and we can wrap things up, but the other thing is your exit, right? Early season, how are you getting out of there, guys? You got to have an exit strategy, because those deer are going to get out in those beans. And how are you getting out? Or wherever you're hunting, they're going to get out and they're going to be feeding. And maybe the deer you're after came out and he's 50 yards out of range. You couldn't get a shot at him, but he's 200 yards away and it's getting dark. I mean, what's your plan? How are you getting out of there? If you can have a farmer come bump for you. Who was it? Was it Bill Winky or some guy that had a remote control car that he would run at him or something like that? I've heard of guys using coyote calls to clear the field with coyote calls. The worst thing you can do is climb down, right? The worst thing you can do is climb down and let them see you do that. And they go, oh boy, season's in. So have you an exit strategy on how you're going to get out if you don't get it done on that sneak attack. And it's not going to be ideal. Having the farmer come in there and bump's not ideal. Blowing a coyote call or snort wheezing or whatever you do, grunting real loud to, kind of push them off. It's not ideal, but it's way better than just coming out of the stand with your hat light on and walking across the field to get out of there.
Absolutely.
That's ruined many a big deer.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's a perfect example. Last year for the opening week in Illinois, I was on a giant 8 with a big drop, one of the biggest bucks I've ever been on over there. And first week of season had him come out, just lost my camera light, and he comes out and I lost camera light, can't film him. He's right there though, watching him feed out into the beans. And I sat in that tree for an hour, and those deer hadn't left the field. And I think I ended up sitting there another half hour and went completely the opposite direction, had to crawl through this big thicket to get out the back door and have the farmer pick me up on the backside of the block. But I mean, you got to do everything that you can think of to keep those deer from knowing that you're there. So,
yeah, that's a huge.
You got to have a plan.
Yeah, that's so important. And I see it, like at our hunt club, this time of year. I mean, season's in, rifle season's in, guys are going, and the 4-wheelers getting cranked up right at 5 minutes after dark, and they're pulling out. And man, you talking about cameras going dry? I mean, these deer have been pushed already, and it's just 5 days into season.
Yeah.
So it's you hit the nail on the head. You hunt smart. Think about why you're doing what you're doing.
Yep, absolutely. Outthink them, man. That's your biggest advantage over these old bucks, man. Using your brain.
Yes, sir. What else you got, Hayes?
I was just checking my notes to see if we missed anything that I was gonna mention. Um. Yeah, not much really.
Yeah,
Not
it's
much
here.
really.
It's
Gonna
here.
be gonna be launching a new apparel line for 200 here in a couple weeks.
Oh yeah, I like that. I got to get one of those hoodies, man. I like that.
Yeah, we're
Change
gonna
the
have
logo up a little bit, clean the logo up a little bit. Looks
yeah,
good.
gonna have 4 or 5 different style hoodies and like a dozen different hat styles. And as soon as it's ready to go, we're gonna launch it on social media. So
We'll be
that's
sharing it.
something
Yeah,
new coming up.
let me know when you get it up and going. I'll share it on all our stuff.
Absolutely.
Guys, if any questions or you know confused about something, I want to dive in deeper, you know, hit Adam up on Instagram or Adam Hayes or Team 200. What's better for you, man?
Yeah, you can hit me up on social media or um actually the easiest way to get a hold of me is probably info@moonguide.com because I'm on that, answering questions for guys, any time of day or night. So
Cool.
that's
So
probably the best way.
hit Adam up, info@moonguide.com and Joe Miles Hunting on Instagram. And it's time, guys. The season is here. It's amazing how fast it came around this year.
Summer just vanished. Don't know where it went. Can't believe it.
It's
Can't
already
believe we're a week away from getting started.
crazy, crazy, crazy.
Awesome.
All right, buddy. Well, always enjoyed it. We'll do another one real soon. I'll be
Absolutely.
talking with you, and yeah, good luck up in Canada, and we'll get you some of that clothing headed your way. I think tomorrow. I think the truck got here today, so we'll be getting a lot of
Nice.
that tomorrow and the next day. So
Good
be good,
deal.
man,
All right, man. Thanks.
brother. Thank you.